Pediatric Lounge, a podcast taking you behind the door of the physician's lounge to get a deeper insight into just what docs are talking about today. From the clinically profound to the wonderfully routine and everything in between. This episode is sponsored by our friends over at Hippo Education. Quick question. When was the last time you felt you were fully up to speed on the non-stop updates in pediatrics? Let me guess. Never. That's where Hippo Education's Pediatrics Reviews and Perspectives podcast comes in. Your monthly pediatric cheat code. Fresh, up-to-date insights from pediatric clinicians who live and breathe the same challenges you do. No fluff, no boring lectures, just practical knowledge you can apply on your next shift. The best part, you can listen and earn CME whenever it works for you on your commute between patients or during that rare quiet moment. So, if you're ready to make staying informed easier, check the link in the description or visit hippoeducation.com to try Hippo Education today. It's important that the American Academy of Pediatrics have a statement.
Now, why is that important?
What's that?
Why is that important? Because pediatricians will not do anything until they're told to do something by the AAP. Otherwise, they'll push it to the specialist. The specialist is not going to see the kid that's going to be sick in a year. He's going to wait for him to be sick today, then see them. So we need something for the AAP to give some guidance to general PD on how to screen. And then if we have to screen, the doctors need a process that's easy. They need something that doesn't take too much time. And you know what? They should be paid for it too. What are your thoughts, Herb, with the resolution?
Yeah, so there's a resolution that hopefully will make it to the leadership conference this year, calling for the American Academy of Pediatrics to endorse ISPADS, which is the International Society of Adolescent Pediatric Diabetes, standards of care, in which they call for offering every family antibody screening at the ages of 1 to 2 and then 4 to 6 years of age. The word offering is very important because we want to make it a choice between the family and the pediatrician. Some people that have a strong family history of type 1 diabetes don't want to get the autoantibodies tested. And I think you need to respect that from the parent's perspective. And also that the academy advocate for a G code so that when the pediatrician orders the autoantibodies, they're paid for the screening itself because it's going to entail looking at those results and knowing how to decipher whether they're negative, whether it's one autoantibody positive or two autoantibody positives, and what that means for what you need to do to manage that. Because only 1 in 300 kids will test positive, you're going to do 299 negatives, which is time from the pediatrician. And we can't ask our primary care physicians, whether they're family practice, pediatricians, pediatric nurse practitioners, family nurse practitioners, to do more. The studies already say that if we follow a preventive guidelines from our associations, we would need 27 hours a day to carry a normal panel in our office. So we can't do it without payment and we can't do it without time. I'm very optimistic that this resolution will be presented in late July, August in Chicago, and that the Academy will endorse it because I think, we do need the Academy to have a statement on this.
Thank you.
Yeah. And if nothing else, or because resolutions, just like that after school or schoolhouse rock, I'm just a bill. Some of the resolutions have to come up multiple times, but every time it comes up is an opportunity for education. It's an opportunity for people to understand this. And look, 2 years ago, product showed up on the market, Fortis, that addresses the single biggest boogeyman in a pediatric practice, RSV. It's the thing that scares you guys the most, but it should. And now, second year, there were a couple problems that first year, but now it's almost normalized. Most practices are using it, and holy smokes, does it work. RSV hospitalizations fell off the table, which is awesome. And at some point, with the apparent increase in T1D that's happening among kids, this boogeyman, DKA, is going to replace those RSV kids. I see this one going up and this one coming down. And we need to educate people that we have an opportunity to catch them before it gets bad. It's not like RSV that happens in a couple of hours. Okay. This is something that happens over a couple of days or weeks, and you can catch it in most kids. And if we catch it, we can study and we can do some things that might actually someday solve this problem with people. And so I heard, even if the resolution, I almost called it a bill, even if the resolution doesn't pass, having that conversation out loud in front of a bunch of people and saying, look at how prevalent this is. You have 1,000 kids on average. I don't know what the number is. I should, but of 1,000 kids right now, you got 24 of them who are T1D. All right. And depending on where and when you caught them, they may be permanently damaged, or they may not be managing it well. They may be struggling, and you play a role in that. Just as Dan points out, just like you do for your asthmatic. And so I don't know. I don't follow all the machinations of why certain resolutions pass and certain ones don't, but I do know that every single time they come up. All right. So if the people soap them 2 days after everything goes through, someone's going to go through and post all the resolutions, and everyone's going to talk about them. And it will be, in my knowledge, the first time any meaningful T1D conversation is had on soap.
Sounds like a no-brainer. There's no reason why it should pass.
I think you're right, but there's that one little thing you said, which has to give us all pause, and that is, yeah, we got to get paid, and
The money.
yeah, the money, because the money is it, and I, like, you guys know this. It's not about more money in your pocket. It's so I can go hire more people to make this actually happen in my practice. So I can pay for the machine that does this, because it needs to be sustainable and viable. And frankly, okay, all those people whose businesses pay tens of thousands of dollars a year for their healthcare insurance, they're the ones who benefit. Should get paid. And that's the obstacle. But to fight about.
The only obstacle I see on this is with little children, because the test itself is a venipuncture.
Mhm.
And just like with the lead testing, you would order it, and patients will not take their child, a nebulous boogeyman disease that may come, may not come. So they're not going to go. Okay, there has to be some kind of a test that's done in office, like the lead screening, which is very important. And then the physician practice should be paid, because the machine is going to cost money, the reagents are going to cost money, and so forth and so on.
Yeah.
And
I don't have a good sense of that, but
So-
obviously,
so-
if the academy holds up a light and says, hey, everyone needs to be headed towards this light, which is, I don't know, A1C testing,
Mhm.
some lab company is going to be like, bingo,
Okay,
we
so
can make that. I have no idea what that lands.
so the light is auto body testing right now.
Okay.
There's 4 auto bodies. Now, you've done this for longer than I have, Chip, but you've seen,
Yep.
I don't know how many thousands of pediatric offices. You've seen one. Each
Yep.
one is so different. So you can't do it in the office through Enable Bio and get the 4 autoantibodies, and I think celiac disease testing. It's a card just like the newborn screens. The problem is that New York State does not allow the use of Enable Bio in New York State. So in New York State, you cannot do it that way. Many other states, you can do it that way in the office if that's what you choose to do. Then there's the craziness of our patchwork of healthcare systems. So if you're sitting in Rochester, there's only 1.5 health systems, and they have an absolute monopoly, and 1 insurance company, and they have an absolute monopoly. There's not even a LabCorp or a Quest in Rochester, because they're not allowed to be there, because the insurance company and the health system have decided they don't want the competition.
Upstate New York, I think, is, from a health insurance perspective, maybe top 5 most corrupt parts of the United States. I can't believe that the attorney general hasn't come into the monopoly held by Blue Cross up there is insane.
Yeah,
And
70% of the market.
Yeah. And they don't list, they do whatever they want. And
Yeah.
it's a non-profit insurance company. What a joke.
If you're
So,
in
yeah.
Virginia, it makes perfect sense. You have better compliance if you do in the office point of care testing. Everybody knows that. However, in Virginia, Anthem Blue Cross Blue Shields has a capitated program with LabCorp for their labs. So if you do the hemoglobin and lead screening in the office, you don't get paid. They all have to go to LabCorp. And then
It's all,
that's part of
it's
the
like
HIDIS
organized crime.
that's part of the HIDIS measure. So you get the letters back. Could you please do better? Because we're not screening enough leads and the state is breathing down our neck. Pay me to do it in the office.
Yep.
Because people don't want to go to LabCorp after they see you for the well child exam. So, those are some of the intricacies. I think that having a resolution pass at the academy will move us in the right direction, but each practice and each state and each maybe county will be different depending on the resources that they have. But it's going to take a community and those people that are in the pediatric EHR space will play a really big role
Mhm.
because of the numbers you have and the commitment to taking care of pediatricians and making sure that kids stay healthy. Other companies don't have that commitment. They make money off of orthopedic surgeons and cataract surgeons and dermatologists, where their margins are so much higher
Yep.
and the process is different. It'll be very nice. And I think you're right, Chip. Even if we don't get it to pass, but if we get 300 pediatric leaders at once to look at this topic and to implement it or to think about implementing it and then discussions in the list servers, we've already won. And I'm a little more concerned about what happens once the kit screens positive. Because as you mentioned before, in the guidelines, now there are consensus guidelines by academics. It is a very complex algorithm that they put down. It's based on number of autoantibodies and your age. And that dictates how often you should have that child come back for a glycemic screening. And that's got to be pared down to where if you're under 9, you come in 4 times a year, you get educated on DKA, you get a spot glucose and a hemoglobin A1C that can now be done in the office if you want to. Because if you're splitting it up so much, there's just no way. There's no way that you're seeing 25 patients and you're going to see one of these kids once or twice a month. And you're going to say, oh, wait, what? This kid's 2 years old. I'm supposed to see him every 3 months, but the sibling's 6. I only need to see him twice a year. And the other sibling's 10. I only need to see him once a year. That's not going to happen. That's going to be a tough one to how do we put that into the EHRs and educate people.
Wonder
I would add to that, sorry, George, is that we've seen the asthma action plan evolve over time with new medications, new treatments, etc. I would say that we have to start somewhere, even if it's a little bit more complex, and we then can give feedback and help to refine the issues. We got to get started with those sorts of things. George, I'm sorry I interrupted.
I wonder what role, I'm just talking, a kid that screens out positive for the autoantibodies that you think you do a consult with the parents and you think you're going to develop diabetes sometime in the future and you want to prevent DKA. What role would those continuous glucose monitors have on that kid where you could do some remote monitoring from the office and keep a watch on these things? And then once you start to see a spike up, it's red alert. What do you think of that?
There certainly are people who are looking at that, and there are studies going on for that. That, again, trying to implement that through the practice might be easy from an endocrinologist or a diabetes center, but the number of questions that you're going to get when the CGM doesn't work that evening and they call the doctor on call and say, what am I supposed to do? So there's complexities there from a technology and hardware perspective.
Yeah, I remember our first weekend with the CGM, and it was horrifying.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
you're like, yeah, but George has a point though.
Yeah.
We're not ready for that today, but there will be a time in the near future when your Apple Watch or whatever is telling you, hey, you need to go talk to your doctor right now, or you need to go tell your school nurse right now. And that time is coming. And the work that we're talking about here will pave the way there.
Yeah.
People have to recognize the importance or the impact of the T1D stuff for this to really have it.
And George brings up he brings up a good point. People are going to demand it. They're going to insist that I have these tools.
So Barbara Davis, I think, is doing some studies with that, and one of the ways they minimize the stress on the pediatrician is they do blinded CGMs, and it's very controversial. Some of the families don't like the idea of being blinded, but in essence, you've got the machine because this child is not requiring insulin will not have pathologic lows, hypoglycemia. What you're looking for is a trend that they're becoming dysglycemic. So you can blind the monitor, and then the pediatrician, the peds endo are the only ones seeing the data and figuring out when the kid's ready for insulin before decay. That's one way they're doing it, but the families, some don't like it. They want to know the data. It's their data. They want to have access to it. You can now buy one without a prescription and put it on yourself and a text to your cell phone. So they're like, why are you preventing me from seeing my own data? But that will probably be the future, right? More monitoring of our bodies through different gadgets.
This is called population health. And you're talking about getting paid for a simple test.
Yeah.
Brain, this is probably a general pediatric job because you're going to have all these kids that may be getting sick in the future. The endocrinologist has to deal with the people that are actually sick today, not the slew of people that may have it. Just they really won't get an appointment with an endocrinologist. And I'm sure there's some centralized web portal that does these things. And then I know there's remote monitoring codes now. That could be a really cool thing to do in office.
We need it. It boils down to demand. Right now, we have our industry has an almost completely reactionary position vis-a-vis type 1 diabetes. We all wait for a kid to hit a wall before we do anything. In pediatrics, unlike the almost entire scope of healthcare, couple exceptions, but pediatrics is fundamentally about preventive care. How do we keep this from happening? Or if it's going to happen, how do we keep it from getting worse? How do we minimize the impact that it has on this kid's development future? And so we need to raise attention to it. We need to create demands for these solutions. And I say all this knowing full well, now I'm more familiar with the diabetic community has been screaming about this forever. They've been demanding. I mean, ask anyone who's going to pump, and they're like the work they had to do to make pumps happen to make it important enough for us to focus on it. Dan, it's like in your blood, right? And I'm like, I'm a latecomer. I come along. I'm like, oh my God, we should have paid more attention to it. This is what it's going to take. Everyone's going to have to scream about it the whole way.
And our biggest cheerleader is her Dr. Bravo.
I don't think
it's true.
so.
There we go.
I don't think so.
Thanks to her.
There's a lot of people in this community. There's a lot of people in this community that are very genuinely committed to finding the cure.
Yes, they are. But you need to get the message out, and you're very loud, so you get the message out.
I am very loud.
Consistent. He's
You've
very
done
consistent.
a great job, Herb.
Thank you, guys. You're very kind. It's a horrible disease, and as Chip said, as pediatricians, we work to prevent disease day in, day out, and nothing gives us more joy than when we work ourselves out of a job, right? There's almost no ear infections anymore. There's no meningitis anymore. And that's just, I hope for a day when there won't be any more diabetes, or maybe diabetes will be like AIDS. You take a pill once a week and things are stable. It's a chronic disease that doesn't demand so much out of the families.
Doctors will look at it. We get rid of this disease. I'll have nothing to do. You know what? I've watched diseases come and go. I still have things to do all the time. I remember when it first came out with the Prevnar vaccine. One of my partners, Dr. Belvin, says, wow, this vaccine, this could put pediatrics out of business in the future.
The same group of people who need 27 hours a day to supposedly do their jobs. There's right now, the teenage well visit coverage in this country is like 65, 70%. Okay. There is so much work to do. It's just that, you know what? Treating otitis was easy. That's what upset people. I can treat otitis. All right. I can treat otitis with a 99% effectiveness that you do. All right. Because if I screw it up, the kid's still fine. stuff, as we eliminate this stuff that's preventable, now we're bumping into heavier weight elements like type 1 diabetes, like behavioral health, like obesity. These are going to be harder, but that's like Google can do otitis. All right.
I'll
That's
put a monetary spin on it. Why did the doctors like the otitis?
because you could do 8 an hour.
That's
That's
a lot
right.
much. It's a little bit much, but you did bang
I've
out
seen
a
it
lot.
done. You've seen it done, but you can do 6 an hour of otitis.
Yeah. And then, but the reimbursement was low. So now you're asking for the same reimbursement for a longer visit. And that
Payment.
is the problem. Payment is
Yes.
the problem. So
So, Dan, any thoughts as we start closing out the episode so that
No, I think that we, PCC and are committed to prevention. It's in our blood, if I can say it that way. And so we understand probably better than most of the other EHRs why using type 1 diabetes as an example to form and to create systems that are not only giving us the ability to screen, but also to track, to monitor, and to educate clinicians. And I'm excited about the conversation because that's where both companies are going. And it's a great opportunity for us.
yeah.
Yep. And we absolutely welcome the competition from Office Practicum to be the best type 1 diabetes EHR. Everyone wins when that happens. I look forward to Dan calling me and saying, guess what we just did? Because then we're going to have to do it. And then and what that means is we're going to drag all of the other EHRs who only care about the hospitals and the derm and everyone like that. We're going to drag them to us. All right. That's what it's going to take.
Those EHRs, they're still writing electronic progress notes and sending them billing statements. That's what they are. You guys are an electronic health population management system.
Yes.
That's what we need.
Yes.
Yep.
Not a progress note.
Yes. Yeah,
Yeah.
and we're both imperfect. We both are works in progress. We have so much that we wish we can do one day, one step. And this,
Yeah.
this
You know what?
topic is a good.
Ed,
Yes. Chip, don't you?
you said something very smart to me. When I
Yeah.
first got involved with the electronic medical scribing,
Yeah.
it was so good. I had asked you, I said, Dan, this is so good. It writes my entire progress note. I'm thinking, why do I even need an EHR anymore if this can write my progress note? And you said to me, but there's all the stuff in between, the population health, diagnosis, the clicking, all the managements. That's why you need the EHR, not for progress. And you're right.
Yeah.
yeah.
True.
Thank you. I don't think that in any other space other than with your companies and pediatricians could we have such a candid conversation
Yep.
on the challenges and the opportunity to use type 1 diabetes as a roadmap for collaboration and for population health and for getting closer to a cure. And this is why I'm a pediatrician, because of people like you guys in the room who share that belief that together we can make children's lives better, even if we only have small steps to take today.
Yep.
And so I thank you all.
I'm not going anywhere. I got another
Well-
35 years in me. Right?
Well,
So I don't know
we
about
all-
that, but
we all do
but-
little steps at a time, right?
Yeah, that's-
We got to start walking.
That's
Yeah.
pediatrics is about dozens of small interactions and small changes that you make. It's influencing families a little bit at a time. It's not reattaching an arm or dissecting. It's not like taking someone's organs out, and replacing them. You have a relationship with these families that's different, measured over decades, and you make many small incremental changes. And that's what we're doing here as in our EHR community.
Chip, you and I have had some good conversations, but I'm not sure yet we have discussed the feeling that we live maybe on a daily, weekly basis, and that is a feeling of impatience. We see the possibilities. We know the roadblocks. We know what old code, old ways of doing things need to be changed, etc. And so we constantly have this feeling of impatience, but in a positive way. It drives us.
Yep.
It's what
Yep.
makes us move further to create those solutions for complicated diseases like diabetes.
All right.
Well,
Totally agree.
thank you, everybody, and look forward to seeing you all soon somewhere.
Very
All right.
good.
Well, thank you very much.
All right.
Talk to you all soon.
Good to see you.
Appreciate it.
Take care
Bye-bye.
now.
Thank you.
All right. Bye.
Please visit our sponsor. Incredible conversations like the one today can't happen without their support.